5 opinions. 5 fearless debates.
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Good evening, this is GB News. Of course, we're going live to The Late Show live in Washington, D.C. Ben, what's coming up on your show tonight?
Alex, in just a few minutes, I'll be joined by Lucy Connolly, of course. She was given a 2.5-year sentence for that solitary tweet during the Southport riots. Many people argue, A, it was far too harsh, especially considering the context of the tweet and Lucy's background. But the reason we've got her on the show, and I'm very excited to speak to Lucy, the reason I've got her on is because the Trump administration here in the United States is reportedly tonight going to be giving political asylum to Brits who particularly speak out on free speech issues, particularly speak out on things such as the trans debate and, of course, immigration too. So I want to ask Lucy, not least how she's getting on after leaving prison, but would she be up for it? Would she consider becoming the first Brit to get political asylum in the United States? All that plus more coming up in the next 2 hours, Alex. Let's do this. This is The Late Show Live. Good evening to you. Welcome along. The special relationship appears to be over for now because the Trump administration says the UK is no longer a friend of the US. We'll be digging deeper into that in just a tick. But also tonight.
So first of all, it's out of my lane, but I don't think the UK is a friend of this country, a friend of the president. I don't think there's skepticism.
Border Chief Tom Homan there talking about the UK. Elsewhere tonight on The Late Show Live, Lucy Connolly, as I just told Alex, she joins me live in just a few minutes. Treated abhorrently by the British judicial system, will she find asylum soon in the United States? As reports suggest, the White House is now welcoming political asylum seekers from Britain. Also tonight.
Now, fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
Are well and truly off, but the BBC tonight is fighting back against President Trump in its defamation row. Lawyers from the BBC say the US president doesn't stand a chance in court. Does it have any legs? I'll be joined by a top legal expert from Florida shortly. We'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, hours before they hit the shelves back in Blighty. And of course, as we are every night, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this one.
Sadly, a lot of men who do not feel like they can be led by a woman, and we saw it.
Is America ready for a woman president? Because apparently tonight the Democrats say that America's just too sexist to have it. We, of course, have had two leaders in the United Kingdom. That's our big debate tonight. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and Unite's just getting started. Hello, good evening. Hope you're well. Thank you for your company. Breaking tonight, the White House is offering political asylum, yes, political asylum, to refugees in Britain, to the likes of Graham Linehan and Lucy Connolly, the sorts of people who have been failed by our justice system. The Telegraph's Connor Stringer, a friend of the show, is reporting that the Trump administration is looking at welcoming free speech activists who have been prosecuted, in addition to the likes of those who speak out on migration, trans issues and so on. Well, who best to get the thoughts on this breaking story tonight than Lucy Connolly, herself imprisoned for 2.5 years for the Southport tweet that was. Lucy, great to see you. I must say, you're looking well after having spoken about you for so long during your torturous time in prison. It's just great to see you out in the open. First of all, how are you? How's life outside? Are you getting on okay?
Yeah, great, thank you. It's been interesting, but you know, everyone's been really kind actually, and you know, I've met some great people along the way. But we're doing okay considering.
Good. I'm glad to hear. Lucy, let me ask you about this breaking story tonight in the Telegraph. So the Trump administration, this side of the pond, they are reportedly soon planning to be opening their doors, welcoming the likes of political asylum seekers, potentially like yourself, who they feel have been persecuted in the UK for free speech issues, speaking out about migration and so on. Is this something you'd consider? Would you consider coming to the US, Lucy, as a political refugee?
It's something that we talk about daily in this house, actually, leaving the country. Even before this happened to me, you know, we could see the way things were going. I think it's been going this way since COVID, and it's been a massive slippery slope. But there's always this question of, well, where do you go? Isn't it? You know, you can't. It's not as easy to just pack up your belongings and just go. We still have to work. We still have to earn a living. We're a lot more fortunate than some that we've got a house we can sell and a little bit of money in the bank and stuff. But it's not so easy just to pack your backpack and leave, is it? You can't just do that, especially when you've got children and commitments here. But yeah, it's something we talk about all of the time. And I'm kind of of the mindset that I would actually go tomorrow, because this just isn't the country currently that I would, and the future that I wish on my children right now. But my husband's very much of the no, we need to stay and fight type attitude. So it's like a bit of a different opinion in this house.
Yeah, that's what I hear all the time. You hear of people, especially wealthy people, going to the likes of the UAE, Dubai for tax reasons and so on. You know, the millionaires leaving because the Chancellor's going to target them for massive tax hikes and so on. But then, yeah, the argument is, Lucy, as you said, you need to stay and fight for your country. So you would go tomorrow, right? If the Trump administration came to you and said, Lucy, we'll help you come over here, we'll help you set up and get you on your feet in the US, you'd go, but your husband wouldn't, right?
It's not that he wouldn't, it's just that I'm just a bit, I've had enough now, to be quite frank. I don't know whether we can get ourselves out of this mess. I'd love to think that we can, and as you probably noticed, I'm the first one to put my 2 pence in, but I just don't know if we can come back from this. I really don't.
What about a change of government, Lucy? Because, of course, it may not be reform, but Reform are leading all the polls. Labour, as far as the polls go, they're not doing very well. And if there was an election tomorrow, they'd most certainly lose. So would you not be prepared to hold out to see who may take the reins next time round? Is there any faith or hope that things can get better?
Definitely. But can we go another 4 years? Can the country really last that long with the current state of affairs? I'm honestly not sure that it can. What's going to happen in the next 4 years if things carry on the same as they are now?
Yeah, well, I've always argued that I think things need to get a little bit worse before we get some sort of mass awakening in the UK, and I don't know how that manifests, what that looks like. I don't know, mate, the economy collapsing, I'm not sure, but I've always argued that we've got a little bit more to go before that transition happens. Can I ask you though, Lucy, have you spoken to the administration here in the United States since you were released from prison? Have you had any contact, formally, informally?
No, not yet.
Nothing at all. Because I spoke to...
There were some plans that got postponed. You know, I don't want to say too much about that, but I know that, you know, the White House has spoken about me, and obviously I know that you did your interview with the lovely Charlie Kirk, and he was, you know, quite outraged about what was happening in this country and was going to go back and speak. And, you know, yeah, America are very, very proud of their First Amendment, aren't they? And I think they're kind of looking over here in horror right now, along with, you know, several other countries.
Yeah, which is ironic, really, because the whole concept of free speech was birthed in our great nation, and now we seem to be the ones lagging behind. I did, of course, as you mentioned, speak to Charlie Kirk in April, and he was outraged at your case. He said he'd spoken to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State here in the United States. And yeah, I just wonder, so you've had no contact at all from Rubio or anything? I mean, were you offered the opportunity to maybe speak at some conferences here, CPAC or something?
Yeah, so originally, obviously, the problem was it was so near to my release date when I came out of prison. I didn't come out of prison until the 21st of August. And obviously, Nigel Farage was, shortly after that, went to the US to give his evidence to the US about how, you know, free speech is a bit of a dying breed a dying thing in this country. And he did invite me to come along, and they tried their best to get me there, but unfortunately, because of my conditions on my license, I cannot leave the country without permission of probation, and it would, you know, they'd want a fairly good reason. I think they jumped straight past probation and went to the, you know, right to the top, but it was a straight no. There's no way she's going.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Do you? Can you tell me, Lucy? We sometimes on this channel and other channels, particularly as an example with the BBC scandal at the moment going on with Trump, we get accused, or I get accused, of talking Britain down for highlighting these issues, highlighting some of the problems we've got. Look, I love my country, but we highlight issues that I think we need to sort out in order to find, you know, get our mojo back, as Charlie Kirk would say, pull ourselves up from our bootstraps. Do you accept the premise that even tonight that maybe you're talking the country down? Britain is a great place, and you're talking the country down, as we get accused of.
No, not at all. On paper, Britain is a great place. And, you know, if you look at some of the laws and things in this country compared to other countries, on paper, it's supposed to be, you know, the place to live. There's a reason that everybody wants to come and live here. We're supposed to be an independent, sovereign, country that, you know, is a great place to live. But it's not about talking the country down. It's about wanting better for our children and wanting a better future for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. And Lucy, just going back to something you said a second ago, you said that, correct me if I'm wrong, the Trump administration or somebody in the government here went to the top of the UK government, maybe the Home Secretary, to try and allow you to come to the UK despite your licence conditions. Can you just elaborate on that? What happened?
Yeah, I think that was Nigel Farage's team. Obviously, Nigel was really keen for me to go with him to America to give evidence on this. And as far as I'm aware, it was vetoed straight from the top. I mean, the original plan at the time was to go straight to David Lammy. I don't know the ins and outs of what was said and what happened. I just know that I got an answer back of, it's a hard no.
So you don't know who stopped it in the UK? I mean, was it David Lammy, potentially?
Possibly, but that, again, that's I think, I don't know. I do know that they did go straight to the top. They bypassed probation and went, you know, to the government. And yeah, it came back as absolutely not.
So somebody from the UK government stopped you travelling to America to talk about your situation, just to clarify.
Yeah, they did. And this was, it was quite amusing really, because obviously I'd come out of prison. I didn't have a passport. It had expired. So I had to go back to Peterborough to get an emergency passport within like 24 hours. And I was saying to everybody, you know, that were trying to get me to America, they're just never going to let me. They're never going to let me, of all people, go to the US to tell them that, you know, my story and other people, you know, and the likes, don't forget it wasn't just me, and tell, you know, America how far we've fallen here with regards to free speech. It was always going to be a big ask for them to sign that off, and I never really expected them to, and they've just proven my point, haven't they? That, you know, they never wanted
Lucy, I find that insane. I find that insane. Look, of course, let's be clear. You regret sending that tweet. You deleted it within 4 hours. Yes, you should have been punished in some aspects, but the consensus is, you know, from all political persuasions, you were dealt a harsh hand with your sentence, especially considering the context of losing your poor baby and your attitude towards the establishment and, you know, authorities in the UK. We get that. The tweet was wrong, fine. But the facts that you served as long as you did, you were refused leave on licence, as far as I remember, when other inmates who committed far worse crimes than you were allowed out to go and see family. Your daughter was struggling at school. Your husband was a bit poorly. All that in context. The facts that you then were released from prison, and the same government, the Labour government, then said, well, no, you can't travel to the US. We are ordering you to stay in the United Kingdom. We're not giving you permission. You're banned from travelling. You're staying in the UK. That, to me, seems pretty authoritarian. I mean, how did you feel? Does it feel like you're still being controlled by the state?
Oh, massively. You know, like, I have to go to probation every week. I'm a MAPA level 3. I don't know if you know what that means, but sex offenders and terrorists get put on MAPA level 3. It's another way of, so you're not just what's the word, like controlled and watched by probation. It's police. They have a police department, they have a press department, there's like a group. It stands for multi-agency public protection, basically. So you've got, I'm not just answerable to probation, I'm what they call a MAPA, which is insane given, but they use the excuse of, well, it's because of the press interest, you're high profile with the press, so I have to ask them permission to do everything. So if I want to go anywhere where there's more than 50 people, I have to seek probation's permission and get that signed off. If I want to attend like a conference, or so for example, I'm going tomorrow to Parliament to watch the debate that Rupert Lowe set up about not using prison as a punishment for people that post on social media, and I've had to seek permission to go to that and get it signed off by them. Like, everything I do is controlled by them, basically. So it's not a case of, oh, she only served 40% of her sentence. Don't be fooled into thinking that they make my life really easy now, because they don't.
Wow, I am absolutely astonished. So you're basically chucked in the same bag as sex offenders and, you know, some of the worst people in society, all because of that tweet. I mean, do you feel like you're still being made an example of, Lucy?
100%. There was, I'm not going to go into it, but there was an incident, and probation pulled me up about it this week, and I just sat there thinking, I don't know, and they were saying things like, well, you know, how much had you had to drink and all of this, that and the other, and I was like, listen, this incident was nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. I wasn't the one in the wrong, you know, and somebody had gone to the press, which had gone through MAPA, etc., etc., it got back to probation. It was something and nothing that was, again, made a big deal out of, because it's me. Oh gosh, you know, Lucy Connolly. And yeah, it's getting a bit wearing now, I'm not going to lie, but I just smile and nod and, you know, and go along with it, because what choice do I have?
Well, look, menacing Lucy Connolly with papier-mâché Christmas tree decor on your shelf and whatever else is there, picture frames, you know, goodness me. Lucy, can I ask you, please, when these conditions come to an end, when are you going to be literally a free person to do what you want again? Or have you been told when all this nonsense will finish?
March 27, because obviously that's when my 27 months are up.
Oh.
So how it works is, if you get a sentence in the UK, you're told that you must serve a certain percentage of it, depending on what your offence is. So mine was 40%, so I served 40% in jail, and then the rest of the time, the remaining of those 27 months, I have to serve on licence and be answerable to probation with licence conditions, and yeah, and I'm currently visiting them every week.
Goodness me. Lucy, I want to play you one very quick clip and then I'll let you go. I know you've been very generous with your time at this late hour, so thank you for that. But this is our Prime Minister, our dear leader, I'm sure you're a big fan, Keir Starmer, talking about free speech to President Trump. Let's take a look.
Free speech today. Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
All right, Lucy, do we have free speech in the United Kingdom? And latterly to that, what has this whole experience taught you, if anything? What life lessons have you learned since firing off that infamous tweet last year?
The answer to the first question is no, we don't have free speech. We have free speech as long as your political opinions and your political views align with the current government. If they don't, then they'll do something about that, throw you in prison, make an example of you, whatever they might be feeling like that day. No, we don't have free speech because we either have free speech or we don't have free speech. You can't police free speech. How can you police free speech? I don't understand. It's not free then, is it? If there's consequences to that speech, it's not free speech. Regards to lessons, loads of lessons, and not all bad, a lot of good. Obviously I was very hot-headed on social media. Lesson learned, I won't be doing that again. Massive price to pay for an emotional tweet, but I've been able to have an insight into a system, into a prison system, into a judicial system that I would never have had that opportunity to before. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about people, I've learned a lot about the system, and I've learned a lot about myself. And yes, it came at a massive price, but it wasn't all bad.
What have you learned about yourself, just finally?
Sorry, say that again, sorry.
Sorry to interject. What have you learned about yourself, just finally?
That I'm a lot stronger, that I can actually do anything. Yeah, you're not going to break me or my family, as much as these people try, as much as the government might want to break me, as much as I don't call them lefties anymore, I call them communists, want to see me and my family suffer. I'll never let them win. I'll stay, I'll always fight back, and I will always stay strong, and you will never, ever keep me down for long.
Well, Lucy, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. And yeah, love to your husband, to your daughter. Hope she's getting on better now at school. Now you're back home, and yeah, good luck to you, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. You take care of yourself.
All right, thanks, Ben. Thank you.
Cheers, Lucy. gbnews.com/your say. Let us know what you think about that. And of course, the main story, the whole reason we got Lucy on, political asylum in the United States. Would you back Brits to go to the United States? Would it be betraying our country? We had a discussion there with Lucy about staying in the UK and fighting for what's good. Fighting to bring back the old times, to find our mojo again, to put ourselves up from our bootstraps. Joining me in Washington now is my panel, the US commentator and Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner, and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Good evening to you both.
Pleasure to be here.
You familiar with Lucy Connolly?
Well, I feel sorry for her. I don't care what she said. She had the right to say it, and she had the right to say it in a tweet and not to get crucified for it. But she better be careful before she comes to the United States and thinks she's getting free speech when you can't have protests on college campuses, when you can't protest against ICE slamming people on the ground, and when the President of the United States poops on 7 million people, and you've played that clip, and that's because of their free speech. So we have the same problem that you guys have with what we define, and it can't be what Lucy says, where it's only if the government says it's proper free speech. It's got to be anything.
Yeah, well, that pooping on people was just an AI meme that the President posted.
He reposted.
That's not an attack on free speech. But in the more pertinent point you made, what was the first one you made?
That no matter what she said, she has the right to say it.
No, but the first example you gave of the no free speech in the US.
Protests on college campuses.
Right. Well,
that's very similar to what she did.
Is that not, Victoria, to do with anti-Semitism? Of course, you can protest on college campuses.
You can, and I have absolutely no problem with people protesting as long as it doesn't turn violent. When people are erecting structures, which it was on, for example, on the campus of Columbia, it was all about the tents. They were harassing Jewish students on their way to campus.
Yeah.
Since then, you've had protests.
Well, you don't condone that, do
for
you,
example, the protests in Los Angeles.
There are protests in Columbia. There are protests. They're shocked now at Berkeley. Really, this is news that there are. As a creature of the '60s, we had those. We surrounded recruiters' cars, and we were allowed to do it until they had 6 people killed at Kent State.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Bob. As a Brit, you see people like Lucy Connolly. Yes, her tweet was wrong. Yes, it wasn't good.
Right.
Nobody's condoning that. But she was given a 2.5-year prison sentence. And as she said, and I agree with her, if you have consequences to your freedom of speech, it's not freedom of speech. People like to say to me, Victoria, oh, well, freedom of speech comes with freedom of consequences. It's like, well, no, that's not freedom of speech then, is it?
Well, I think there's 2 kinds of consequences. One that is actually legal, one that is more of a social consequence. I think you can have as many social consequences as you want, but I think that the problem is when the government intervenes. And there was a part in the exchange when you were talking about, does the UK have to kind of, I guess, touch the hot oven before they realize what exactly they're going to land on. Yeah. And I think if we look in the US, just over the past 5 years, you think COVID, one of our huge First Amendment protections is freedom of assembly as well as freedom of religion. People weren't able to go to church and exercise their First Amendment rights in those two of the 5 categories, which are their First Amendment rights. You've looked at, for example, recently, of course, the U.S. Senate, which I primarily cover in my role at the Daily Mail. Senator Chuck Grassley of the Judiciary Committee, he uncovered Operation Arctic Frost, which was the FBI spying on Republican lawmakers because of their association with President Trump. Yeah. So, this targeting of political opponents is unfortunately something that is not foreign to many, especially conservatives here in the U.S. I think we are, at least for now, in a better spot than Britain, and I would absolutely love to have Britons that believe in free speech and free expression come here in the US.
All right, thank you. Idris has said on your site, Ben, you have the resources to find out why Lucy Connolly was stopped from visiting the US. She said it came from the top. Find out for her and let the world know who is the person responsible. You can do this, and we need to know. I mean, who must it have been? David Lammy? Keir Starmer? It must have been somebody at the top echelons of the Labour government who responded to the United States administration here and said, no, Lucy Connolly isn't going. They're literally still, despite being free from prison, she is still, I argue, a political prisoner in the United Kingdom. And she will be, as she said, until March 27. An extraordinary interview. I urge anybody to watch that again on YouTube and catch up if you can. Right, thank you both. Still ahead on The Late Show Live, we'll have all the latest details as the US President pushes ahead with his lawsuit against the BBC. But the Beeb tonight have said, we don't care, Mr. President Trump. We don't think you have a case. We'll see you in court. This is The Late Show Live. Back in just a tick.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, the BBC is insisting tonight that the US President, Donald Trump, cannot sue for $5 billion after, of course, the Beeb edited his January the 6th speech. Not once, by the way, but twice. Panorama Newsnight. The reason is because the Panorama edit, in particular, did not air in the United States. The BBC says the documentary wasn't shown in the US because the BBC had no rights to broadcast it. And they also argue that because of geolocating systems, nobody in the US could have watched it physically without the use of a VPN. This was our very own Bev Turner speaking to President Trump on Friday.
They wrote me a letter of apology, as you know.
How was it?
But then it's fine, but what is it?
Yeah.
It's fine. They wrote me a nice letter. We apologize. But when you say it's unintentional, I guess if it's unintentional, you don't apologize, right? You know, I made a beautiful statement, and they made it into a not beautiful statement. And now I hear, just before this interview, I was told, somebody said, so you were not going to believe it, BBC did it again. They found another place, I think at a totally different...
On Newsnight.
Yeah, totally different place, that they did it again. It's not even believable. You know, I just settled with 60 Minutes in I guess it's based in New York, CBS, because they had Kamala the night or 2 nights before the election. Her answer was so bad, it was election interfering. Okay, that's how bad it was. And they took her answer out, and they gave her a totally different answer using her. At least they used her.
Yeah.
But they took it from 20 minutes or something later in the interview. In other words, they took some other answer to a totally different question. And it was still a lousy answer, but it wasn't election threatening, right?
Yeah.
And we just settled that case. But that's not as bad as what BBC did. BBC actually, I mean, as bad as that was, they took her, and her answer was terrible. It was long, horrible, stupid, so stupid. It would, if anybody listening to it would have voted for Trump. Most of them did anyway, fortunately. But what happened is they threw it out. Just threw it out, and they took another one. They asked a question, they put a totally different answer.
Right, let's speak now to defamation law attorney Trey Lovell, who's in Florida, where this case is going to be pursued by President Donald Trump. Trey, come on then. The BBC tonight says that President Trump's got no case whatsoever. They're not paying any money to settle it, and we'll see you in court if you fancy it. Are they right?
You know, they very well may be. You know, this is a tough case. You know, the fact that, yes, it wasn't broadcast in the U.S. Matter of fact, the administration didn't even find out about it until this leaked note from one of the guys that worked there. But the problem is a couple things. First of all, even though they spliced, you know, these portions, non-consecutive portions together, the question is, did it really change the gist of the narrative? You know, these things aren't looked at in a vacuum; they're looked at in totality. So the question is, did it really change, you know, the narrative of the documentary? Even if it did the producers know that they were depicting something false? You know, and then certainly damages. So, you know, it's going to be a tough climb for the president.
Yeah, and also I think the BBC's argument as well, Trey, is that it can't have caused material harm because he went on to win the election a week later.
And that's a very good point. And this is the thing, the January 6th occurrence and his speech has been heavily publicized, heavily the subject of congressional hearings. Everybody has seen that and has an opinion of that. You know, even seeing this documentary, would it change anybody's mind, perspective? Everybody kind of has an idea of what happened. So that's an excellent argument. I mean, there's really no damage, even if what they did was misrepresentative.
Okay, I know this case is a defamation case, but what about the possibility of election interference? Is there not election interference broadcast a week before the US election? Massive. Any possibility of that?
I don't think so. You know, once again, it wasn't broadcast in the United States. Nobody saw it at that time. It couldn't have any causal effect on the election. Trump won. So I really don't think that's an argument. I think, you know, Trump is taking advantage of these incidences where people are saying bad things about him. You know, it's happened all over here through the different media. And this is just another example of it. But, you know, these are tough cases to win. BBC has a lot of good arguments, and it's going to be tough.
Interesting. So, okay, just personally then, as an attorney in Florida where this case will be heard, what do you think President Trump will do now? Do you think he'll go for it? I mean, the BBC have basically called his bluff and said, come on then, see you in court.
No, I definitely think he's going to go for it. He's already talked about it. That's been his MO. And they're going to go through the courts. But the big question is, you know, will it get dismissed early? Because a lot of these defamation cases, they bring these special motions to strike, special motions to dismiss, and that really will show the backdrop of the life of these things. So, you know, he's going to bring the case. The BBC may be able to get out of it early. And if not, you know, there's certainly a big question if Trump can win. So, but I have little doubt he's going to bring it. He's been suing the media here in the U.S. This is a real pet peeve of his, and he'll probably go forward with it.
All right, well, whoever wins, if it does go to court, it's going to be very entertaining indeed, and I'm there for it. Thank you very much, Trey Lovell, defamation law attorney in Florida. A spokesman for the BBC has said, we take our responsibility to our young audience extremely seriously and have already addressed the concerns directly with transgender trend. This is a completely different, wrong statement from the BBC. It's about trans issues. Ignore that. I think the BBC would probably say that they are apologise for the mistake, but they're not paying compensation. We'll endeavour to get that to you. Bob Wiener's here and Victoria Churchill. Just very briefly, Bob, your take on Trump. You think he'll win against the BBC? What's your take on the whole scandal?
I think everybody all over the world is sick of his sour grapes and retaliation. That's all he knows how to do.
But you accept they stitched him up?
I think that there was legitimacy in the way that they played it.
Why did two BBC execs resign then?
Because they're being pressured. And he succeeds in some of the pressure that he does. I think there's a reason why 2/3 of America in every issue now, and that's why he just lost the election a week ago in every single election. People are sick of this approach that Trump has. They want a president who has graciousness and cooperate. Yes, of course.
Are you not sick of fake news? Taking a man's speech 52 minutes apart to make him say something he never said. Are you not sick of that? I mean, that is a threat to democracy.
I know that when people write newspaper articles, they pick the quotes from where they're appropriate to the point that they're trying to make, and that's what happened there.
Victoria?
All right, well, Bob, I will agree on those last 2 seconds of what you just said. You do put together quotes in a narrative in a news article, but I think if you stitch things together in the way that the BBC has done, I think that's absolutely, horrible. Should not have been done that way. I also think that really there shouldn't be any kind of government-funded media, because in this current media environment, there's groups like yourself, there's us as the Daily Mail. We are able to fund ourselves with advertisers, with subscriptions, with people that support our work. So I don't think we should have any government-funded media. And this was actually a position that I've had since back when I was in college. I went to journalism school. I was on the student senate, and I actually voted to defund our student newspaper just about 10 years ago, because we had 2 tracks in our journalism school. We had a news and information, we had an advertising side. And so my belief was, you know, why should every single student pay a couple of bucks to fund the student newspaper if we have people that are graduating from a top journalism school and are learning how to be advertisers, and there's an entire business side to the operation? The paper should be able to fund itself. So I'm telling the BBC, go fund yourself.
Papers are dying, and the support to journalism is well spent.
Yeah. Well, papers are dying, broadcasters are dying. I mean, maybe the
and
BBC
other people
should
are
make
blooming,
a
just
more
like you guys.
concerted effort to report the news accurately. I mean, I keep saying, if GB News did what the BBC did, we'd be shut down by now. Ministers on the airwaves, on radio stations, calling us disgraceful, probably, you know, calling, I don't know, it would be finished. On the issue of the BBC, here is the correct statement. The broadcaster has said it sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, but added that they strongly disagree there was a basis for a defamation claim. The BBC holds itself to the highest editorial standards. Right, coming up on the Late Show Live, is America ready for a female president? We'll be debating that next. Kamala Harris, of course, just missed out last time round. Some, though, suggesting she didn't win because America's sexist. Back in just a sec.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, as we saw in this past election, sadly, we ain't ready.
That's why I'm like, don't even look at me about running, because you all are lying. You're not ready for a woman. You are not. So don't waste my time. You know, we got a lot of growing up to do. And there's still, sadly, a lot of men who do not feel like they can be led by a woman, and we saw it.
Well, that was former First Lady Michelle Obama saying America is just too sexist to elect a woman president while promoting her new book called The Look. So the big question is the US ready for a female president? Well, let's get the take of Democrat strategist and 2024 DNC delegate for Kamala Harris, Khyven Shroff. Khyven, good evening. Thanks for your company. Let's bring in Bob Weiner to this as well, and Victoria Churchill. Let's have a big old free-for-all. Khyven, what did you make of Michelle Obama's comments there? Is your country just too sexist for a female president?
Well, she certainly had her own experiences with sexism in politics, but I don't think that's a fair shake. If anything, we know that Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump by 3 million popular votes. So that's one data point, but also Vice President Harris came very close to winning the election. It was a close race. So I think that's the wrong takeaway when there's so many factors involved to hone in and say it's all about sexism and then conclude that we shouldn't run female candidates, because that's really the only takeaway you can draw from that.
Where did it go wrong for Kamala in the election? Was it a sense of sexism? Was it maybe a culmination of things?
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump, right, is historically unpopular right now because of the prices. High electricity prices, record high beef prices. There are certain things that when you're the party in power and you're running for re-election or election, then you're going to have to explain yourself to voters, even if you can control all of those factors or not. And obviously the Biden-Harris administration didn't sabotage themselves with tariffs. So it's a different situation here, but also similar.
Victoria Churchill, has Michelle Obama got a point?
No, she absolutely doesn't. Look, if you want to talk about the definition of fake news, I think her statements there are just the example of that. It's not about who says something, it's about what they say. And Kamala Harris had absolutely no message. Even Democrats were upset because she was anointed the nominee in a very undemocratic process. And of course, you know, even looking back to our Republican primary, Nikki Haley, for example, she ran against Trump, but of course, I'm sure she knew that she wasn't going to get the delegates, but she wanted to run to make a point. And I think going back to the first Trump administration, she did a very good job representing the U.S. on a global stage, particularly because Trump put her in that place. You know, I've read her book. She talked about how he had an entire cabinet of competent executives that were working under him. And, you know, of course, in the first administration, she was one of the most visible members of the administration. You look about the current administration, you have, of course, people like Pam Bondi. You've got people like Secretary Nunn. But my favorite may potentially be the Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins. This is somebody that worked within Trump's White House, very close to him. And so he wants to put women in positions of power. And America, I think, is ready to do the same if it's the right person.
All right, Bob Weiner, you guys are meant to be about diversity, inclusion, equal playing field. Look, I don't care whether the person that running the country's got a penis or a vagina. Couldn't care less. Do a good job. But we've had 2 female PMs in the UK, Maggie Thatcher, Liz Truss, you know, lasted a couple of months a little bit. But, you know, come on, catch up, Bob.
Well, you had 2 in Britain, Pakistan, India, Mexico, Israel, every country but us. And I don't think the issue was so much that Kamala was a woman. I think it was she was not an effective, and sorry, Khyven, but I don't think she was an effective candidate. While Trump at the end is hating cats and eating cats and dogs and being negative campaigning, Democratic Party has not learned negative campaigning. And at the end, she was doing kumbaya and we're all going to work together, and it got boring. And she's nasal. She talks a bit like this. So she did not have the charisma. But I also think that, yes, there is sexism. I got to say that. When I was the Young Democrats Youth Vote Coordinator, I spoke to the Women's Veterans Auxiliary, which is all the veterans' wives, and I said, how many of you would want a woman equal in every way to a man to be President of the United States? And I was shocked. I thought that was the audience where they would say, absolutely. 2/3 said no, 1/3 said yes. And so even back then, and it hasn't improved a lot now, there's still that kind of negativity going.
All right, Khyven.
I got to just say, though, you know, that is an example, and I know it wasn't your intention, but talking about the way that she speaks, I think, is when people in this country say there's sexism, right. You often don't hear that similar sort of phrasing by the punditry or the media about male candidates. So, right, I mean, for so many people...
You want to hear me talk about Schumer? I'm happy to do it.
So many people didn't even know what Jared Kushner sounded like for the longest time. That's a good example.
All right. Right. As I said, you want to hear me talk about Schumer? Your image, your charisma counts.
You didn't, though.
Yeah. All right, Kyvan, thank you, mate. Really appreciate your company. Thank you very much, and we'll catch up soon. Bob and Victoria as well. gbnews.com/your say. Does Michelle Obama have a point? I don't think so. I think Kamala, I think Hillary lost because, quite frankly, they're incompetent and they got found out. Right, back in just a tick with the front pages, including this breaking story on the Mirror. You know, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor now, as he's known. He's had a rough time, deservedly, but now there is a campaign in the Falklands to remove every plaque bearing his name. I think that's a bit of a disgrace. I think that's OTT. We'll be covering that in just a tick. Don't go anywhere.
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. First of all, an apology to one Theresa May, because in the previous segment I said we'd only had 2 female Prime Ministers. Of course, we've had 3 because I was forgetting Theresa May, who did a great job with Brexit, as we know. Right, sorry about that, Theresa May. Let's look at the front page of the Daily Mirror. New humiliation for Andrew. Get him off our islands is the headline. Falklands authorities are removing every single plaque across the Falklands bearing his name. And let's not forget, you know, regardless of what he's done, I think he's been punished enough, I'd argue. He is a Falklands war veteran. Well, let's get the take now of comedian and GB News superstar, Paul Cox. Paul, good morning. Thank you for your company. I think this is pretty harsh.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ben, actually. I'm a royalist, but I've been quite tough on Andrew. I've always said that this doesn't look good. He's handled himself with arrogance, and his PR stuff has been totally rubbish, and it's led to his complete and utter downfall from the perspective of being a fully functioning member of the royal family. I think it's probably the right choice by the King and probably Prince William. But when it comes to this, I think they have been way too hasty, because at the end of the day, the work that he did in the Falklands was legitimate. You know, he didn't just go out there on a jolly. He went out into a war zone. He was very much part of that battle, and we won that battle, and he was part of it. Look, I don't want to be too flippant about this, but look, I used to be a huge Michael Jackson fan. And, you know, allegedly he did all sorts of nasty things, but he had some great music. I don't think, you know, I think we can look at these things and separate them. We can say, Andrew, there's a few problems. But what he did in the Falklands War, good, and that can stand up to scrutiny. Michael Jackson, few problems, but bad, decent album, Ben.
Yeah, of course, Andrew, just for clarity, he was a helicopter co-pilot in the Falklands. He returned to the UK as a hero after 1982. There are 4 plaques that bear his name across the Falklands. For example, various buildings that he opened, according to the Mirror, including the £300 million Mount Pleasant Airport. But now all those plaques across the islands are being stripped because of his name. And I think you're quite right. Regardless of what these guys have done, Prince Andrew, of course, denies all knowledge, but for a fact he lied about his involvement with Epstein. He emailed him after saying that he ceased contact. I think when you've given your life for your country, you know, many Brits died in the Falklands. When you've given your life, that is just far too much. And just on MJ, Paul, Michael Jackson, I will die on the hill that and I'm going to get some stick for this, I don't care. I will die on the hill that, yes, he was a very strange, disturbed guy, okay? I just don't think he was a paedophile.
Great. I mean, I wasn't saying he was, never would do. What I really want is to know what Bob Weiner thinks, because I cannot wait to hear what... I mean,
go on then, let's get Bob Weiner in. Victoria Churchill, Bob Weiner. Bob, what do you think about this? Should Prince Andrew be stripped of his title?
Let me give a nice warm hello to Paul, and maybe he won't tell people this time how much I move around and how
this camera, Bob,
how fast talking I am or something. You know. But good. All right, and I won't get into how you always smile about everything. I won't do it. Okay.
Should the Falkland Islands have stripped Prince Andrew's plaques?
I think they gave him much too much of a house. It's a giant mansion, and why are they giving him that kind of a thing? But let me just say, you talk about lies on Epstein. The media has ignored the big story that Donald Trump, and it's in the emails now, Donald Trump spent hours in private with Virginia Giuffre at Epstein's house and other people. That's not a blow-off. That's a huge smoking gun.
Okay, we've got 10 seconds left. We're going to come back to this in the next hour. Okay. I will go to war with you on those emails on Trump and Epstein, so you better be ready for it.
Okay.
Paul, thank you very much. We'll catch up in the next hour or so. gbnews.com/your say. Is that a bit overkill on Prince Andrew? I think it is. I think he deserves everything he's got so far, but not this. More coming up in the next hour, including... Rachel Reeves lied about tax rises. We'll have all the details in just a sec. First, though, your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to be a frosty start to the day, feeling cold, particularly in the brisk winds, and plenty of sunshine, though a good chance that we could see some wintry showers. These mainly around North Sea coasts. These could be quite blustery at times, possibly bringing some sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground of Scotland, but a chance we could see some to the south of this as well, mainly across hills. But for most, it's set to be a dry day, plenty of sunshine and wall-to-wall blue skies, but it is going to feel cold, highs reaching around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in the south, but in those brisk northerly winds it is set to feel much chillier. Now, to finish off the day, for a time there will be a mix of cloud and also some clear skies across Scotland. So once again, turning chilly, still with some showers around northern and eastern coasts. Some more clouds starting to feed in to Northern Ireland, but elsewhere across northern parts of England, a clear, calm end to the day, and similar elsewhere across England and also Wales. So another chilly night to come, and it's likely that we'll see some frost patches once again. But it will start to cloud over across parts of Scotland. Some further showers starting to push in from the northwest. We do just need to keep an eye on those showers. A good chance that they could bring us in some snow. Not only this, but some quite strong winds as well. So the potential there for some blizzard conditions to start the day on Tuesday. Elsewhere, a little drier, but once again, it is going to be fairly cold with some frost in places. Now, across Scotland, it is set to be a very unsettled day. A chance we could see some quite significant snow accumulations and some gale force winds at times. So blizzard conditions here. Also a much cloudier day with some showers at times. These still could turn wintry across the high ground, but across the far south and southeast, a mostly dry end to the day. Still feeling very cold in the winds, highs reaching 9 to 10 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tonight on The Late Show Live, President Trump's border chief, Tom Homan, says that the UK is no ally of the US. And breaking tonight, this exclusive line from Lucy Connolly. She just told me somebody from the top of the Labour government, was it Keir Starmer, was it David Lammy, stopped her travelling and denied a direct request from the Trump administration to travel to the US. Tonight on The Late Show Live, breaking news from Lucy Connolly in the past hour. She just told me in an interview on The Late Show Live that somebody from the Labour government, was it Keir Starmer, was it David Lammy, denied a direct request from the Trump administration for her to visit her friends and colleagues here in the United States. Let's take a look.
As far as I'm aware, it was vetoed straight from the top. I mean, the original plan at the time was to go straight to David Lammy. I don't know the ins and outs of what was said and what happened. I just know that I got an answer back of, it's a hard no.
It's an extraordinary story. It's exclusive to The Late Show Live, and we'll get some more reaction on that imminently. Elsewhere, it seems the special relationship is over. The Trump administration says the UK is no longer a friend of the United States. Wow, we'll be digging deeper into that in just a moment. But also tonight, we'll be diving headfirst, of course, into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, hours before they hit the shelves, including this breaking one from the Mirror. Prince Andrew, who was Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is being erased from the Falklands despite being a war veteran. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this one.
A lot of men who do not feel like they can be led by a woman, and we saw it.
Is America ready for a female president? Because Michelle Obama and others say that the US is just far too sexist. Also, I'll be going head-to-head with Bob Weiner on the Trump-Epstein emails. That's our big debate tonight. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and welcome to the second hour, where we've got all the stories you'll be talking about much later today. More debates and, of course, zero ad breaks. Hallelujah. Don't go anywhere. Right, let me show you this clip from Bob Homan, who is is President Trump's border chief here, this side of the pond, responsible for all the immigration raids, the ICE raids. He gave an extraordinary comment to reporters outside the White House recently, talking about the sharing of intelligence between the United States and the UK. Long story short, the US is reportedly stopping sharing high-level intelligence with the UK for a myriad of reasons, which we'll get into shortly. But this is what Bob Homan said. Take a look.
The idea that a key ally like the UK is so sceptical of the legality of your operation. First of all, it's out of my way, but I don't think UK is a friend of this country, a friend of the president. I don't think there's skepticism, and I'm not familiar with not sharing intelligence. I'll get it out of my way. I'm the border guy, so that's a question for the Secretary of State.
That was President Trump's border czar Tom Homan, not Bob Homan. I've got Weiner on my mind. And it came off the back of reports that the US is reportedly stopping the sharing of intelligence with the UK, particularly to do with drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean. Right, let's get a take of former Conservative MP Louise Mensch now. Louise, good evening. Thank you for your company. Great to see you again. So Tom Homan saying that the UK is no ally. Oh, we are. It's a hell of a show. Glad I've had my Americanos and my Red Bull. What do you make of this Tom Homan comment, Louise?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call him the Trump administration, much though I have a lot of respect for him. He speaks for himself there. I don't think anybody is going to take away President Trump's overwhelming love for the UK, especially, of course, the royal family, the king. In fact, we saw a bit of that yesterday, didn't we, when Bev Turner had her exclusive interview there with President Trump. I thought his love for the UK came shining through. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not a very bad thing that Keir Starmer's ridiculous government has upset such an important member of the Trump cabinet, and we should put it right. And if I may, I think you slightly got it the wrong way round. It isn't that the US is stopping sharing intelligence with the UK. It is the other way round. Under our nutjob far-left Attorney General Lord Hermer, we have decided, in our great wisdom, to start policing the American legal advice that Donald Trump's counsel is giving to the Pentagon and saying this might not be legal. It's none of your business. Let the Americans run their own military the way that they want to do. There is absolutely no justification for stopping sharing intelligence. It's one of the things the UK can really bring to the United States. We have excellent global intelligence levels, and to withhold it is just disgusting, disgraceful.
Thank you for clarifying that, because it's obviously very important. So just to confirm, it was Lord Hermer, it was the Labour government who've said to the United States, said to the Trump administration, we're not sharing intelligence with you because we don't agree with what you're doing with particularly Venezuelan drug boats in the Caribbean.
Exactly. They're putting James Bond back in his box, apparently. They're retiring Q, and they're not allowing them to go over and help Felix Leiter because, get this, the Labour government would like to preserve Venezuelan drug cartels. It really is embarrassing. Sitting there, having you there in the studios in Washington, D.C., next to the White House, asking people about this ridiculous policy of the British government. It's honestly a bit embarrassing, isn't it? Just sitting there wondering why we can't act like grown-ups, our biggest ally, especially in terms of intelligence sharing. We're part of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance of the Anglosphere, which is Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, and Great Britain. As soon as we stop giving value to the United States, we will stop being of value to the United States. Maybe Lord Hermer and others could just grow up.
Yeah, and look, again, I don't want to be accused of talking my country down, but, you know, this comes off the back of course, the Israel-Gaza stuff from months ago where Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and I think it was Huckabee, the Israeli ambassador to the US, or the vice versa, said that, you know, Keir Starmer coming out and proclaiming Palestine as a recognised state in the UK, you know, proved a massive liability to negotiations, to releasing the hostages. They must think, the Americans must think this Labour government are just a bunch of clowns, no?
I'm sure that they do, actually, and we're lucky that Trump loves us so much that he's willing to overlook some of this stuff. Now, having secured peace in Gaza, President Trump is moving to a pathway to recognising a two-state solution, and he did it in the right order. He got the peace deal first, and then he proceeded to solidify that peace. Maybe we could give the guy just a little bit of credit. Now, I am one of his domestic opponents. I voted for Kamala Harris. I'll always say this, you know, I was very much against President Trump, but he is factually doing a lot of good stuff in foreign policy, and it's about time that his greatest ally got behind him, as we have always been behind the United States. There is no reason to stop now.
I got to make a correction here.
So Bob Wiener's here. Bob, go on then.
You know, I was the spokesman for the White House Drug Office under both Clinton and Bush, and the spokesman in the House Narcotics Committee under Charlie Rangel. And the drugs do not come from Venezuela. They come from Mexico, Colombia, China. So he's picking a fight because he doesn't like the president.
Louise, your take?
I don't think that's right. I really do not believe that is true. If the United States has intelligence, the DEA has intelligence that these people are running drugs, then they are running them. And does it really matter what the source is? If Venezuelans are running drugs that originate in Colombia up to our border, then the United States has determined that they represent a clear and present danger to the United States. We've all seen the movie, and President Trump is doing something about it. And I would ask the Democrats, please stop coming down on the side of defending the drug dealers. It would be nice to win an election any time in the future.
That's not what we're doing. We're saying go to the right place. There is a way to fight drugs. There is. We did Plan Colombia, and Plan Colombia stopped cocaine by half and crack cocaine by half in the United States by supporting the eradication of cocaine and coca in Colombia. You go where the source is. You don't make it up and have a minuscule little amount of fishing boats that you have a couple of people on them, and some of them weren't even drug dealers. You don't do that. That's not the way to stop drugs. The way to stop drugs is to go straight at the country and work with the country.
Hang on. So are you advocating for the US to put boots on the ground in Colombian jungles and tearing apart cocaine plants?
I'm saying you work with the Colombians in supporting alternative crops.
Well, that's not going to work, is it? When the you know, these South American, Latin American governments are probably, you know, they're all bent anyway, working with the cartels and the drug dealers. I mean, that's not going to work.
That's a problem, and you have to fight them, and you fight them appropriately, and you support. Actually, we got yelled at for supporting the Colombian military to fight the cartels.
Did it work? Did it work?
Yes, we stopped. Washington Post had to concede. We stopped half of the cocaine coming from Colombia.
Okay, Louise, whilst I've got you, I'm going to move on from this. I want to talk to you about Lucy Connolly. I'm not sure if you saw my chat with her at the top of the last hour. Anyway, long story short, somebody from the top echelons of the Labour government, Keir Starmer, David Lammy, I don't know who, they denied a direct request from the Trump administration for her probation licence to be temporarily waived so she could visit the United States. Somebody said no. I don't know who that was. Let's just remind ourselves, if you've not seen it. Let's take a look.
Obviously, Nigel was really keen for me to go with him to America to give evidence on this. And as far as I'm aware, it was vetoed straight from the top. I mean, the original plan at the time was to go straight to David Lammy. I don't know the ins and outs of what was said and what happened. I just know that I got an answer back of, it's a hard no.
So you don't know who stopped it in the UK? I mean, was it David Lammy, potentially?
Possibly, but that again, that's I think, I don't know. I do know that they did go straight to the top. They bypassed probation and went, you know, to the government. And yeah, it came back as a absolutely not.
Well, I guess, Louise, the argument is, look, you're on probation, you committed a crime, you served a sentence, so yeah, there are conditions, one being you can't travel abroad. But I mean, I don't know, what's the precedent? Is it typical for the US to ask?
It's not. Ben, as you said before, it's not a jolly in her case. She was being asked to travel abroad to accompany Nigel Farage to testify in front of Congress. I can see no legitimate reason for refusing such a request, if indeed one truly was made by the Trump administration for that purpose. She's not coming over to go shopping or see the Rockettes, in New York. She's not coming over to look at Christmas trees. She was coming over to testify in front of a congressional committee. What is the justification for treating the Trump administration like children? Had Keir Starmer appointed a professional to be ambassador to the United States instead of a great mate of Jeffrey Epstein's and Tony Blair's, if he'd appointed a professional like Karen Pierce, this wouldn't have been happening. It would have been sorted out at the diplomatic level. And may I just remind your viewers that we still don't have an ambassador to the United States. This is Mickey Mouse stuff, and again, it's embarrassing.
Victoria, what's your take on this? Do you think the Trump administration would have been annoyed, offended? I mean, President Trump probably doesn't know this happened, but I'd argue maybe Marco Rubio did, or somebody in and around the State Department.
I think if the request was made, I'm not shocked that the UK didn't let her out, because as we were talking about in the first hour, the UK, I'm sure, doesn't want people harping on their inadequacies, particularly when it comes to civil liberties like free speech. But, I was there. I was in Congress that day that Nigel Farage came. I think he made some very eye-opening remarks to members of Congress. And I think, again, as we were talking about before, I think you need to have a point where your civil rights and civil liberties are threatened to really show you how valuable they are. And I think Lucy's testimony would have added a lot to the conversation. There's been a woman who's a social media poster, I forget her name, but she's German, and she actually has been posting the last couple of weeks that she wants to be the first German refugee, asylee, however you want to call it, after being a supporter of the AfD party, which is the far-right conservative party in Germany. And so, I think if our European allies are threatening the basic rights, or at least what we as Americans consider basic rights, and I think that most developed nations should consider as basic rights, they should be open to come here.
And Bob Wiener, it was your mate Jamie Raskin who went to task with Nigel Farage, wasn't it? I think Farage served his backside on the plate.
Well, I like Nigel. I've been on his show half a dozen times, and I think he made a valid point, and I think Lucy would have bolstered his testimony. I think she would have been an asset to him. I agree with Victoria on this.
Yeah, well, it's a shame that our own government wouldn't allow her to go. As Louise says, she wasn't going to Disney World or Universal like I did a few weeks ago. Very good fun.
But yes, Jamie Raskin is a friend, by the way.
I know. I want to speak to Raskin. So I've been trying to get hold of Raskin, so tell him that I'm after him. Louise, one more quick topic with you. The front page of the Daily Mirror tomorrow reports that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is having any mention of him erased from the Falklands, which I think is far too much. The guy served there. He was a helicopter co-pilot. What's your take on that?
I am, for once, I'm going to disagree with you, Ben, on this. I think you don't know the other ships that are about to drop. Yes, he served in the Falklands. Yes, he should absolutely keep his medals. There was some talk about his medals being taken away, all for him keeping his medals, valuable service. Do you really want that guy's name, however, along with also the other guys that served, like Colonel H. Jones, for example, would be a great person to name the airport after? You don't know what's coming next. And on your show about a week ago, I predicted that Andrew would be prosecuted. I'm still predicting that Andrew will be prosecuted in the UK and quite possibly in the US until there has been a little bit of time, a little bit of space. Let things fall out before you start saying, we need this guy's name on a plaque all over the Falklands. I'm not sure you will think that a month from now, Ben. I'm not sure you will, mate.
I'm no fan of Andrew. I think he's a very dense, shady, silly man who made some mistakes. He's a proven liar, let's just say that. He denies all other allegations, but the plaques are already there. It's not as if they're installing new plaques to get him for some sort of tribute. The plaques are already there for the airport, for example, the £300 million airport that he opened. I don't see the point in it. But Louise, you seem to think something big is going to imminently drop. You mentioned it last time I spoke to you. Have you got an ETA on this prosecution?
But I think that people are going to ask how he bought the house that he sold in order to get into Royal Lodge, because he purchased that with money from, I believe, Kazakh oligarchs. They always say, follow the money, Ben. And again, you know, let's wait and see if these guys want it to come down. Consider that the British government might know a few things that are coming down the pipe and may have warned them. Consider that, because I think that
Press reported that Charles gave him the money.
Give it 2 months.
2 months. Well, Bob,
press reported that Charles gave him the money for the house.
For Royal Lodge?
Yeah.
No.
Is that correct, Louise?
That is not correct, no.
That was what
He purchased the lease on Royal Lodge after selling another property to a Kazakh oligarch who paid, I believe it was something like $4 million over the asking price, never moved in, and then razed it to the ground. To say that there are money laundering questions about this is putting it mildly, and we want to see how deep into business with Epstein was he. We know that Sarah Ferguson took £15,000 from Epstein. She's admitted to this. If you think that's all that she took, I have a bridge in Brooklyn
now, where it was just pushed into.
Yeah. All right, Louise, interesting. I will brace myself for the next couple of months or whenever that comes. Like I said, I don't really care what happens to Andrew, but if it's going to be more drama, more headlines, another episode of the saga, yeah, I'm here for it. It's like a real-life episode of The Crown. Louise, thanks very much for your company, as ever. Really appreciate it. You take care of yourself, and we'll catch up soon. gbnews.com/your say. Glynis, good evening. You've said, how about innocent until proven guilty, I guess in reference to Andrew. Sally has said, so Wiener's only friend is Jamie Raskin. Is that right, Bob?
I didn't say that.
And George, you've said, why is Lord Hermer, an unelected appointee, allowed to make an enemy of the United States? Thanks for those. Keep those coming in. Still ahead on the Late Show Live, are you in favour of gender-affirming care? Puberty blockers, cross hormones to kids. This lot will convince you it's the right thing to do. I've got a very interesting guest coming up next. You don't want to miss it. Back in a tick on the Late Show Live. Right, let's get stuck into this, shall we? A global leader in digital gender-affirming healthcare has officially launched in the United States. I'd argue it comes with some controversy. GenderGP.com is offering evidence-based and affordable access to care for transgender and non-binary individuals across certain states in the US. And that includes, by the way, individuals, includes children. Well, joining me now is Dr. Helen Weberly, the founder of GenderGP.com. Helen, thank you for your company. Welcome along.
Thank you very much.
Just to clarify, just tell us what GenderGP.com does. You basically provide referrals for prescriptions from doctors for people who want to access puberty blockers, cross-hormone drugs and so on.
Yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, gender-affirming care means switching off your own hormone production from your ovaries or testicles and then swapping it with the opposite hormone. So basically, that's how it works.
Okay, so you were active in the UK. You're based where? Singapore?
I live in UK, Spain, that area.
Okay, and which states are you going to be offering this service to?
No, don't make me list them because geography's not my best.
I think I've got to know. I'll
You've
tell
got
you.
to know. You tell me.
California, New York, Colorado, Illinois, Washington State, Arizona, New Jersey, Massachusetts and Minnesota. First questions first, why particularly just a certain few states? Is it because of certain laws in different states?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult political arena, isn't it, at the moment? There's as you mentioned in your intro, there's a lot of social and political chatter. So I think, you know, to start gently with the kind of the less controversial views is an easier way of approaching it, really.
Okay, so let's get stuck into this. In February 24, Dr. Helen, the Telegraph reported that the Clinical Commissioning Group for a South East London clinic had issued a safety alert for GenderGP.com, saying that advising doctors not to prescribe puberty blockers or gender-affirming hormone therapy on your company's advice because your clinic doesn't provide physiological or psychological support to its patients. You were struck off by the GMC in 2024. What was that for?
No. I've not been struck off by the GMC in 2024.
You've lost your licence to practice?
I don't have a licence to practice. I relinquished my licence to practice, but I didn't.
So why didn't you renew it?
Why didn't I renew it?
Yeah.
Because I had regulatory work, if you like, for 6 years, and it was then too late to go back into it, basically. But I was cleared in March 24.
Yeah.
The High Court cleared me of everything that the GMC were looking at.
You were also involved, this is pertinent to our discussion, so I'm just going to reel through these. You also, in 2024, the High Court ruled...
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, a 15-year-old child was prescribed dangerous levels of hormones by your unregulated online clinic.
Wait.
Without speaking to a doctor.
Where are you getting that one from?
Court transcripts from the High Court.
Which High Court?
In London.
No.
The teenager known as Jay was born female but identifies as a boy and has autism.
That's not UK news. That was an Australian case.
Judge Sir Andrew McFarlane said there must be a very significant concern about the prospect of a young person such as Jay accessing cross-hormone treatment from any offshore, online, unregulated private clinic. The judgment in your case, Dr. Helen, says there was no medical examination, blood testing or other clinical evaluation was undertaken. Jay has not had any direct communication with a doctor at any stage during the referral to Gender GP. Your husband, Mike Webberley, is he involved in Gender GP?
No.
No. He's on your website.
Well, he may be from old, but he's not involved.
Why was he struck off?
There were many different reasons in that court case against my husband, but he's not here. I think if you want to ask him, you would ask him.
The Telegraph reported a reckless doctor, referring to your husband, who wrongly prescribed puberty blockers to a transgender 9-year-old child after a 10-minute chat on Skype has been struck off. Michael Webberley's treatment of 24 patients was deemed a catalogue of failings between February 2017 and June 2019. That's what the tribunal found.
Well, this is what the Telegraph is reporting, yeah.
Directly from the tribunal. So your husband, Mike Webberley, has nothing to do with Gender GP?
No.
The reason I'm asking these questions is because you're now coming into the United States off the back of a whole host of controversy. You dish out puberty blockers you refer prescriptions for doctors for puberty blockers.
Puberty blockers are prescribed by doctors. So I mean, you talk about the fact there's no doctor involved. I mean, how can you possibly get medicines without a doctor involved? You know, it's very easy to give this one side of the argument from newspaper headlines because that's what sells newspapers. But what you have to do is look at the whole picture. How can you possibly dish out a puberty blocker from a doctor with no contact with a doctor?
Okay. My 2-year-old son came up to me the other day. I went back home to the UK, and he said, "Daddy, I'm going to have a baby." And I said, "Zach, you can't have a baby because you're a boy. You're a man. You can't have babies." And he said, "Well, I'm going to be a girl. I want to be a girl." What would you have said to him if you were me?
Well, I wouldn't have said, "Zach, you're a boy and boys can't have babies," because that's absolutely not true. So, I mean, I don't know what your parenting is like.
You don't think think boys can have babies?
You mean males?
Yes.
Yes.
You think males? Sorry, you think males can have babies?
Yes.
Right.
Do you want me to explain?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So transgender males have a womb, a uterus, and ovaries. Okay, so they were born, if you like, female, but they actually identify as males. So we refer to them as males. They have ovaries, a womb, a uterus, a vagina, and that means you can carry a baby.
Transgender males being women.
Well, that's extremely disrespectful to transgender males. I don't.
Well, they are women, aren't they? They're biological women.
They are males.
Well, if they're males...
What do you mean by biological women?
Well, hang on a minute. If they're males, why do you call them transgender males? Why put transgender in the...
Transgender is an adjective.
Right, but if they just call them males then, why do you call them transgender males?
No problem at all.
So you're changing that now?
No, I'm not changing that. You said, can males have babies? And I said, yes, males can have babies.
Well, all over your website, you refer to transgender women, transgender males. If these people are genuinely male and female, why do you call them transgender?
Well, why do we use adjectives for anything? If you're clarifying, if you're teaching somebody like I'm teaching you now, you need to clarify, and there you go.
So instead of... So this is interesting. So instead of telling my 2-year-old son, as I did, "Zach, you can't have kids, you're a boy."
I think that's sad.
You think that's sad?
I do. I think, you know, if my son...
Do you know what it did? Do you know what it did? He said, oh, OK, Daddy, that's fine. And the next day he said, Daddy, I'm Spider-Man. Would you want me to entertain that conversation and say, well, Zach, maybe you are
What do you
Spider-Man?
say? Oh, God, no, not Spider-Man. Oh, God, Zach, you can't be a girl. God, Zach, you can't be Spider-Man. Or can't we just let children explore? 2 is an amazing age to explore. Why aren't we letting our children explore? I actually feel sorry for Zach right now.
Oh, well, sorry. OK, well, I don't, because Zach has never mentioned becoming a girl again. And I think...
Cool.
Do you know
so no problem, no harm done.
Do you know... Well, there is harm done when I argue
There's harm
with
done,
people...
because if Zach actually inside
Zach's not a girl, let me tell you. Zach is not a girl.
Let's talk about a different child, right, who went to his dad and said, Dad, I actually feel like a girl. And the dad said, no, that's not nice, because that shuts these kids down.
Well, the alternative is that you start...
The alternative is you believe them. The alternative is you can ask them, believe them, hear them. Or you can go, no, Zach,
the alternative is you believe them, you entertain in a child's mind which hasn't properly formed yet. As I said, they think they're Batman one day, a girl or a boy the next.
Developing exactly what
you then pump them with damaging, irreversible puberty blockers and hormones. Let's talk about puberty blockers. Lupron. How active is Lupron prescribed to people, to children? By the way, how young are some of your referrals?
Well,
9-year-olds?
It depends when puberty starts. It's not an age thing. Whenever your ovaries and testicles wake up.
Which could be as young as 9.
It could be as young as 8, if you like, yeah.
So you're happy prescribing 9-year-old children with puberty blockers, cross hormones.
Puberty blockers are the best time for puberty blockers is when puberty starts.
There was a cache of files from WPATH, which is an organisation you regularly have referred to as being the kind of leading. Yeah. The leading. You still stand by that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, last year there were leaked messages. I'm sure you're aware from WPATH. Which have been described as disturbing in one. So this was an internal forum from WPATH of doctors, of so-called experts. Let me just read one to you.
Yeah, but
so one doctor.
Where's the source? Wait a minute. Before you, if you're going to ask me to comment.
Well, they're real messages. Let me read the message first.
How do you know? Like, leaked from where? Were they published?
It was published all over the Guardian. So this is one of your leading experts who you regularly refer to. The president of WPATH, Dr. Marcy Bowers, said that the impact of early blocking of puberty on sexual function and adulthood said, to date, she writes, I'm unaware of an individual claiming the ability to orgasm when they were blocked at Tanner 2 being the beginning of puberty. It can be as young as 9 in girls. One other doctor wrote on this forum in leaked messages that young patients are too young to fully understand the consequences of puberty blockers for their fertility. Quote, it's always a good theory that you can talk about fertility preservation with a 14-year-old, but I know I'm talking to a blank wall. So even these doctors, even these so-called experts, which you heavily rely on at Gender GP, and you personally to make your argument about pumping children with...
Pumping children?
Oh, sorry, you are. You're taking children. Anyway, point being, even the people you refer to as the world's leading experts know...
I don't refer to them. They are the world's leading experts.
But they all accept that these are damaging...
So you've just found some leaked, we don't know where from.
Did they say those quotes?
Source. I have no idea. You wouldn't share the source with me. You just said leaked. It was in the Guardian.
From the Guardian. The Guardian newspaper.
Oh my God. Well, it must be okay. It must be true then. No, it's not. No. Look at the proper research. If you want to pick out this, yeah, then you can. Leaked Guardian. What about the WPATH Standards of Care 8, which went through a 2-year peer review process looking at all the research? That does not say that a 9-year-old an orgasm. Is that what you said, or are you talking about an adult?
It was an expert from the president from WPATH who said, "I'm unaware." No, of course, a 9-year-old would have an orgasm. They said, "I'm unaware of an individual claiming the ability to orgasm when they were blocked at stage 2." Of puberty. Puberty, of course, can be as young as 9 in girls. So he's saying he's unaware. Every single case this person is saying who's had puberty blockers has gone on to be unable to orgasm in later life. There's many examples of damaged fertility.
If you look at proper research, I don't know about your leaked papers because I don't know
let's talk about the CAS review.
But if you look at proper research says that there is much better sexual function if you affirm someone's gender, much better, because they are comfortable and alive and well in their own body and mind.
Okay. The Tavistock Clinic found that up to 50% of patients were on the autism spectrum. Suffering with depression, maybe, suffering with autism, Asperger's and so on. 50%. Has it ever sort of dawned on you, or maybe in a conscious moment you've thought, well, hang on a minute, maybe these children who are saying they're born in the wrong body. You know, one day, as I refer to my son, says that he's a girl. Has it ever dawned on you that maybe they're just unhappy because they're struggling to deal with everyday social cohesion and because of their autism or
Well, you don't think that's ever dawned on me? Of course it's dawned on me, I'm a doctor. But are you saying that people with autism or depression shouldn't have care? Is that what you're kind of saying?
I don't think they should be introduced.
If you're autistic, then you mustn't have care. You know, what are we labelling these people as? These people are transgender people who are asking to access healthcare, just like any other person. But because they're transgender, because they might have made that decision yesterday, which of course they didn't, now, and because maybe there's some autism, maybe they're so depressed because society is so freaking nasty to them, that now it's a reason to deny them care. It seems that everybody just wants to deny people care. These are people, real, live people.
Would you refer, I don't know, anorexia patients have liposuction if it made them feel better?
Do you really understand how stupid that question
Well, that's body dysmorphia. That's body dysmorphia.
What do you know? You're classifying anorexia as body dysmorphia.
Anorexia is body dysmorphia. You're a doctor, you must know that.
Well, you're saying it, I'm not.
Well, you're a doctor, Dr. Helen Webley.
Yeah, I am a doctor.
Right, so you agree anorexia is...
No, I do not agree that anorexia is body dysmorphia.
Well, that is the medical definition. When you're a doctor, you should know this. You're running a gender GP clinic.
You teach me about medicine and
doctoring. Well, it's not a gotcha, but it's just a definition of fact that somebody with anorexia is suffering from body dysmorphia. That's what it is. I'm saying, would you offer them liposuction to make them feel better?
I think that's the most stupid question I've ever been asked. Why do you think anyone would offer somebody who is suffering with anorexia nervosa liposuction?
Well, same question
so
to you. Why would you offer somebody with gender dysmorphia?
No, excuse me, gender dysphoria.
Dysphoria. Why would you offer somebody with gender dysphoria permanent, potentially a dark pathway to permanently changing their body?
Yeah, that's because that's what they want.
Cutting off their genitals. Because that's what they want. Okay, same thing as an anorexia patient. If that's what they want, they think they're fat and they want liposuction. If that's what they want, just give it to them, yes?
No, they are completely different.
Right, so what's the difference?
The difference is that anorexia nervosa is a very, very severe mental illness. And actually we need to be very careful.
Well, there we go. I'd argue transgenderism is a severe mental illness as well.
Really?
Yeah,
well,
of course.
You are way
I don't see any difference.
You don't? Well, then I think you're extraordinarily unkind.
Okay, and just tell us, Gender GP is going to be active in various states here in the US. Have you had any pushback from the Trump administration? Have you heard from anybody here who's got concerns about...
This is medicine, not politics. This is about making medical health care accessible to people who need it.
Yeah, well, it's this is the front page of your website here. So be seen, skip the NHS's 5 to 10 year wait times, get compassionate, personalised, gender-affirming medications in just 2 to 3 weeks. How much do you charge people for signing up to Gender GP?
So the subscription is $29, $29.99 per month.
Per month. Is that a one-time setup fee?
Yeah.
You still got that? How much is that?
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't seen that. I don't do the logistics of that bit.
Okay. I think it's £195 one-time fee. Do you feel...
You're on that was the UK website there. I don't know why you're on that.
Are you profiteering, Dr. Helen, off the back of vulnerable children who have got mental illnesses? Do you ever consider that?
Transgender children or children who are questioning their gender are not automatically vulnerable, but this kind of conversation makes them extremely vulnerable. And transgender people are not suffering from a mental illness, and the fact that you think that or say that on television is cruel and unkind.
Again, by definition, gender dysphoria is a mental condition.
Do you mean a mental illness, or are you saying that?
I think it's a mental illness. Yeah, it's a mental illness.
Do you know one day you will have a transgender person in your life, and you'll look back on this conversation.
I don't think I will, especially not a child, because I'll tell my child, as I told Zach, my 2-year-old, he's a sweetheart.
I'll say,
do that. Zach, I love you, my boy. But today you're not Batman, you're not Spider-Man, you're not a girl today, and we've moved on. He's not mentioned it since, and I think if more people did that, instead of open, exactly, he's 2 years old. Leave the children alone.
One day,
let them be innocent. Let them
transgender person in your life, and you will look back on this and you will regret your words.
Okay, just as I argue that one day, maybe in 10-15 years, this transgender movement, especially
it's been going on quite a long time. This transgender movement.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference between adults wanting to change their gender. I've got a transgender friend from 20 years ago, one of the OG.
Are they still in touch with you? Are they
I'm still friends with them now. The problem is, I don't care. Look, I'm a libertarian. Let trans people do what they want. If you want to.
When do you think people?
If you want to become become a man, or a quote-unquote man or woman, that's fine.
They don't
my
become
problem,
a man or a woman, they are a
okay,
man or a
whatever.
woman.
My issue comes. My issue comes with the children.
These are people. You're being so disrespectful.
I'm not.
People.
I'm saying let people live their lives.
Oh, whatever.
I'm
when
saying
they
let
become a man, choose to become a man, whatever.
Well,
it's so disrespectful.
I say it in the fact that it doesn't bother me what you want to do with your own life.
How you say it.
My problem comes with children.
But when do you think transgender adults become transgender? Do you think it happens at 18, or do you think it actually is their identity from within them, from whenever they were conceived or born?
I actually think you're very dangerous. I think you're taking God-given children who are innocent, who should be left to enjoy the fruits of life and the wonder and amazement of life, and people like you and your husband who has been struck off for recklessly pumping children, or at least referring children for hormones, dangerous levels of testosterone, which they shouldn't have been given in the first place without proper medical diagnoses or review in the first place. I think you're very dangerous, and actually I'd say borderline evil.
Okay, well, I think let's let your listeners decide.
All right, Dr. Helen Weberly, thank you very much. gbnews.com/your say. That was Dr. Helen Weberly, founder of gendergp.com. Still ahead on The Late Show Live, we'll take a look at the biggest headlines on tomorrow's front pages. Back in just a tick. No breaks, remembers?
No breaks, all right. Yep.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to be a frosty start to the day, feeling cold, particularly in the brisk winds, and plenty of sunshine, though a good chance that we could see some wintry showers. These mainly around North Sea coasts. These could be quite blustery at times, possibly bringing some sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground of Scotland, but a chance we could see some to the south of this as well, mainly across hills. But for most, it's set to be a dry day, plenty of sunshine and wall-to-wall blue skies, but it is going to feel cold, highs reaching around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in the south, but in those brisk northerly winds it is set to feel much chillier. Now, to finish off the day, for a time there will be a mix of cloud and also some clear skies across Scotland. So once again, turning chilly, still with some showers around northern and eastern coasts. Some more clouds starting to feed in to Northern Ireland, but elsewhere across northern parts of England, a clear, calm end to the day, and similar elsewhere across England and also Wales. So another chilly night to come, and it's likely that we'll see some frost patches once again. But it will start to cloud over across parts of Scotland. Some further showers starting to push in from the northwest. We do just need to keep an eye on those showers. A good chance that they could bring us in some snow. Not only this, but some quite strong winds as well. So the potential there for some blizzard conditions to start the day on Tuesday. Elsewhere, a little drier, but once again, it is going to be fairly cold with some frost in places. Now, across Scotland, it is set to be a very unsettled day. A chance we could see some quite significant snow accumulations and some gale force winds at times. So blizzard conditions here. Also a much cloudier day with some showers at times. These still could turn wintry across the high ground, but across the far south and southeast, a mostly dry end to the day. Still feeling very cold in the winds, highs reaching 9 to 10 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Phew, hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Ben Leo. Before we get stuck into the newspapers, Donald Trump is on his way back to the White House. He's been in Florida playing golf, lucky so-and-so, and he's just been speaking to reporters.
Okay, everybody, we had a great weekend.
Mr. President, is it time for Congress to move legislation that puts pressure on Russia and puts pressure on Putin?
Well, I hear they're doing that, and that's okay with me. They're passing legislation, or the Republicans are putting in legislation that very tough. It's sanctioning, et cetera, on any country doing business with Russia. They may add Iran to that, as you know. I suggested it. So any country that does business with Russia will be very severely sanctioned. We may add Iran to the formula, yeah.
For infrastructure inside Venezuela?
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
You said Venezuela wants to talk. What does that mean?
Venezuela would like to talk. What does it mean? You tell me. I don't know.
You want to talk to them?
I talk to anybody. I talk to you, right? I talk to anybody. We'll see what happens.
So that was President Trump there leaving Palm Beach in Florida. He's been at Mar-a-Lago all weekend playing golf, having a well-earned break. He's coming back to Washington, D.C., and he's commenting on Maduro. Maduro, by the way, I think we may have a clip later on. He was singing John Lennon's Imagine. Because he doesn't want to go to war with the United States. So imagine all the people living life in peace. There we go. X Factor, maybe not. Let's delve into some of the main stories on the front page of tomorrow's newspapers, and I will bring you that Maduro clip just to prove that he did sing it, and I didn't want to just entertain you. The Guardian, most sweeping reforms to asylum rules in a generation to be unveiled. Shabana Mahmood there looking pleased with herself on the front page of The Guardian. The Mail tomorrow, lawyers and Labour MPs to torpedo Mahmood's asylum plan. And that's what Nigel Farage said a bit earlier today. He said, fine, Shabana Mahmood, you want to copy reform? You want to channel the spirit of me, Nigel Farage? Well, you're going to have a bit of a problem with the ECHR still in play. The Times tomorrow, first states face visa ban in migrant returns push. The Telegraph, take back migrants or face visa ban. And just to elaborate on this, Shabana Mahmood has threatened 3 African states, I think, with visa bans if they don't take their migrants back. And The Sun tomorrow. Madeleine McCann suspects camp, nowhere to hide. This is the uncovering of Christian Breukner's apparent new lair in Woodland. Lawyers are vowing to fight on if the fiend, Breukner, flees abroad. And The Mirror, new humiliation for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Get him off our islands. The Falklands authorities remove every plaque bearing Andrew's name, of course. He is a war veteran, a helicopter co-pilot. Paul Cox is down the line from London, GB News superstar and comedian. Paul, how are you doing? What would you like to talk about?
With Dr. Frankenstein from Gender GP earlier. That was absolutely fantastic. That is going to be played forever. I thought the Lucy Connolly interview was good, but when Frankenstein come on, that was chef's kiss.
It's been a cracking show tonight, Paul.
It really has. All of it's upstage, Weena. But I've not even said hello to Victoria. I hope you're doing well, Victoria. Obviously, I hope Bob's doing well as well, but we know he's doing well. Look at him, looking at every camera except the one he should do. But
you too.
let's talk about Mahmood, shall we?
Benjamin has Wiener on the brain, he said.
Sorry, yeah, I have no idea what you said then, Bob. But welcome to Planet Earth, mate. So what I would like to talk about Mahmood, actually, because she's clearly on manoeuvres, and this asylum policy, whilst is kind of right-wing and populist, and probably be welcomed by a lot of our viewers, is quite clearly not going to amount to anything because she's part of the Labour Party, and the Labour Party don't want this. Neither, by the way, has the Conservative Party up to this point. There only seems to be one political party talking about this in a serious manner, and that's the Reform Party. And I'm not here from GB News to say vote Reform. I'm just stating fact there. The only people that have talked seriously about this is the Reform Party. But it'd be very interesting to see how this plays out, because what we've got at the moment is a PM on the rocks. He won't last beyond the local elections in May, and we've got every member of his cabinet vying to become PM. And this is all this is, really, because at no point is Keir Starmer mentioned in this policy. I mean, he's the Prime Minister of the UK. He's not even mentioned once. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out, Ben.
Yeah, and also, Paul, I just can't, politicians generally, they're political chameleons. 1 minute they're in favour of something, 1 minute they're going with the tide. There's no authenticity, there's no, genuine ideology there, which I guess in the likes of... Jeremy Corbyn's a great example. I don't agree with Corbyn, but at least you know what he stands for. Yeah. He's borderline a commie. Fair play, Jeremy. If that's what you think, at least you believe it and you're authentic and you haven't changed your spots over the years. Shabana Mahmood was on the beaches of Lesbos in recent years, welcoming asylum seekers, migrants, refugees, fake asylum seekers into Greece. So I don't see how you can do that 1 year and then a few years later, just because you're getting trounced in the polls, think that you can now hoodwink the great British public by pretending to be sort of anti-immigration.
No, there's absolutely no chance she's going to be able to deliver it anyway. And as you're right, she's gaslighting the living daylights out of anyone who's willing to listen to her long enough. This is not her politics. This is not the politics she's risen to her position on. And what she has done is she's seen the political winds are blowing entirely against her, seen how the populists are doing well based on saying we are going to do this. And by the way, let's not forget that for 20, 30 years, nearly every manifesto has said that they're going to tackle this issue in just this way, and nobody's ever delivered it. So how she's going to do it now is beyond me. She's not going to be able to do it because her backbenchers, of which there are hundreds, do not want her to do it. And there are a million human rights lawyers out there that have bankrolled themselves on the back of the ECHR to stop exactly this. They won't allow it whatsoever. And by the way, even if they did and it happened at this point, 50,000 horses have bolted the stable, i.e. we have had 50,000 people come into this country since Labour come into power in July 2024, and we're not going to do anything about them whatsoever. So you can do what you like from this point, but the problem's already here.
Yeah, but I will say, just in terms of, in the interest of balance, Labour put out a press release yesterday or the day before saying they've deported 50,000 people who shouldn't have been here. I argue to that, low-hanging fruit, Vietnamese nail-bar workers, which no one really cares about anyway. And in replacement, we've got 50,000 strange men from faraway lands, that's how I describe them, in replacement. So, yeah. Paul, I want to talk about Epstein, because Bob Weiner thinks that the new sort of emails from the Epstein scandal really implicates President Trump. So, Bob, just tell us why you think this, what you've got, and let's have a row about it.
Well, these are the emails that Trump couldn't block, because they're actually by the estate. They are not held by the Department of Justice, and Department of Justice couldn't block them. He's in it 1,700 times versus 600, 500.
Come on, then, what's the smoking gun? Let's hear it.
And so the smoking gun is Maxwell in 2011 saying that Trump spent hours with Virginia Giuffre in private at Epstein's house and others. And so you know that the #1 reason that women won't admit to this stuff is because of fear of intimidation, fear of retribution by justice. So that's why she lied and said that Trump was not involved. But now it comes out that he was.
Bob.
And that's what the emails say, and they must be investigated.
Bob, I respect you, but I think that's disgraceful to talk about a woman who's taken her own life off the back of alleged abuse.
So did Epstein.
Who said you're poo-pooing her testimony. She said she met Trump a couple of times. He never was untoward towards her, and he was actually a fairly friendly, decent guy. And you're poo-pooing her 6 feet under.
And I'm saying that that's what most women, and I had an off-camera conversation with our female, beautiful, brilliant reporter here. That is what women do. They were afraid. They were afraid to let it out. And that's what happened here, that he did, especially the President of the United States, and so she killed herself.
She wasn't afraid to accuse Andrew Mountbatten Windsor of the things she accused him of, was she?
She said a prince, that's right.
Right.
She didn't say his name.
But Bob, Victoria, maybe you can comment on this. The emails also show that Epstein was peed off with President Trump, well, Donald Trump at the time, for banning him from Mar-a-Lago. He is quoted as saying, Ghislaine Maxwell was told by Trump, stop your shenanigans, stop bringing your weird, creepy nonsense to my door of Mar-a-Lago. And do you not think, Bob, using a logical mind, forget whether you like President Trump or not, his politics, do you not think that for a man who they've tried to kill twice, he's avoided assassination, he's been impeached multiple times for various things, some very silly things, they tried to jail him for life, they've tried everything in their power to stop this man getting back to the White House, and indeed the first time round. Do you not think, from a logical perspective, if President Trump had anything to do with Epstein or his grubby, weird little operation, it wouldn't have come out by now?
It is coming out, but it's only what the Justice Department didn't want to come out. And by the way, what do you think they did for hours in private? Relay Shakespeare to each other? Is that what Virginia
Victoria, what's your take?
Well, a couple of thoughts. So first of all, I am in the camp of conservatives who thinks that these files should be released. I'm looking forward to the debate that's going to be happening in Congress this week. On Tuesday, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, they're going to be having another press conference right in front of the halls of Congress. And, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be covering it for the Daily Mail. So I'm looking forward to that. I think this is something that has dominated our national politics for quite a long time. But I also agree with you, Ben, on the idea that if the previous administration in particular, when they had been in power, had anything to pin on Trump, they would have let it out. And I also think that, you know, you hear from these women that have talked to the likes of Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ro Khanna. These women want all of the files released. They're like, you know, I'm here, I'm in them. That's it. But let the rest of it out, because so many people across America, regardless of political stripes, regardless of where they live, they believe that these files should be released. You know, I'll remind President Trump, this was actually a campaign promise that he made, that these would be released. And so, you know, I think it's interesting to see his resistance to this, because again, from all the insight that I'm seeing, he's not implicated negatively in the files. I think both things can be true, that he can be in them, his name can be in there multiple times, but it also cannot be information that is negative about him. And I think those are two different things, but I think they can both be true at the same time.
And many other people who did business with Epstein and didn't go to his grubby little weird island or travel on his jet, you know, they'll be in the files as well. I've heard this week that maybe, you know, President Trump not implicated directly, but using that example, there's maybe donors or, you know, people who have, maybe people in the White House, I don't know, who are named for some reason, not because they went to his island or they were paedophiles, but because they maybe did business with him, and it just drags their name through the mud. I think this whole Epstein stuff reminds me of the Russia collusion hoax. They tried to derail his first term with this absolute fake BS news about Russia. They tried to stop him governing the country properly, and I think the Democrats are doing it again. Paul, one word from you on this, please, if you will. Yeah,
it's going to be almost impossible to prove, which is why they're hooking their coats on this. Much like the Russia collusion stuff, this is just something that can rumble on, and they'll create enough doubt so that the people on their side of the argument will stick to it, much like Bob Weiner is tonight.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the Venezuelan President Maduro, who was singing John Lennon's Imagine when talking about the fact he didn't want the US to bomb the hell out of his country. Let's take a look.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try to do. Imagine all the people.
Well, I kind of, okay, he wasn't singing, but he pretty much was. Miming, can we get away with that? He was, during a rally, of course, in Venezuela, he was going along with supporters to John Lennon's Imagine. Imagine all the people, Paul.
Yeah, so I thought when you said Paul then, I was supposed to carry on singing, and I hadn't got that memo, Ben. But look, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm not sure that Mr. Trump, President Trump, friend of the channel, as we know, is going to be affected too much by this whatsoever. I really don't think it's going to have much of an impact.
All right, Paul, I'm going to let you go and get some sleep and some shut-eye. Thank you for your company. Great to see you, and we'll catch up again fairly soon.
Take care.
Let me read some of your says quickly before I say goodnight to you, lovely viewers and listeners back home. Shelley, you've said, hello Shelley, good morning. You've said, well done Ben, referring to, as Paul said, Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Helen Weberly. Well done Ben, they've got a damn cheek. You're doing the right thing with your child. I'm going to call you Super Dad from now on because I think you are. These kids even go on to change their minds sometimes, and yet they're full of drugs which have in effect interfered with them. Well done, sir. Drugs like Lupron, which is the kind of drugs they dish out to children as young as 9. Lupron they give to sex offenders to chemically castrate them. And yet we have people like Dr. Weberly who come along and say, well, no, it's fine. They feel like they're a different gender today. So, you know, we'll just give them these drugs and who cares what happens later on down the line if they change their mind. Shelley again, CB, you've said, hello to all the mentally ill thumbs downers who are in favour of child mutilation. You need to seek psychiatric help, have a better day and stay well from children. And that's the point I was saying to Weberly. I have no problem with trans people, adults who want to do whatever the hell they want with their lives. All the power to you, my friends. Go and do what you want to do. Leave the children alone. And I will die on that hill. I will sit in this chair in DC, in London, week after week, month after month, protecting children who have no say in the case. Thank you, Bob Weiner. Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate the company. And of course, viewers back home, thanks for your company. I'll be back tomorrow night for midnight. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you then.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to be a frosty start to the day, feeling cold, particularly in the brisk winds, and plenty of sunshine, though a good chance that we could see some wintry showers. These mainly around North Sea coasts. These could be quite blustery at times, possibly bringing some sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground of Scotland, but a chance we could see some to the south of this as well, mainly across hills. But for most, it's set to be a dry day, plenty of sunshine and wall-to-wall blue skies, but it is going to feel cold, highs reaching around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in the south, but in those brisk northerly winds it is set to feel much chillier. Now, to finish off the day, for a time there will be a mix of cloud and also some clear skies across Scotland. So once again, turning chilly, still with some showers around northern and eastern coasts. Some more clouds starting to feed in to Northern Ireland, but elsewhere across northern parts of England, a clear, calm end to the day, and similar elsewhere across England and also Wales. So another chilly night to come, and it's likely that we'll see some frost patches once again. But it will start to cloud over across parts of Scotland. Some further showers starting to push in from the northwest. We do just need to keep an eye on those showers. A good chance that they could bring us in some snow. Not only this, but some quite strong winds as well. So the potential there for some blizzard conditions to start the day on Tuesday. Elsewhere, a little drier, but once again, it is going to be fairly cold with some frost in places. Now, across Scotland, it is set to be a very unsettled day. A chance we could see some quite significant snow accumulations and some gale force winds at times. So blizzard conditions here. Also a much cloudier day with some showers at times. These still could turn wintry across the high ground, but across the far south and southeast, a mostly dry end to the day. Still feeling very cold in the winds, highs reaching 9 to 10 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at